Let's get into Michigan against Penn State, the fourth ever top 10 matchup between these two teams, series dating back to 1993. And we'll start with the Michigan offense against what is a very, very good Penn State defense. Only one team, West Virginia, has rushed for more than 82 yards on this group. And they were good against the run last year as well. Michigan explodes for 418 yards a year ago in that game.
Just because they had their signs, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
they were blowing them off the ball, but it was all about the signs.
Yeah, the blocks were great, and they had great movement, all because of Connor Stallions, man. He was the X factor. But so not many people saw that coming. I don't think people see that coming this time. Law of averages probably says that won't happen again, but I do feel like Michigan can do a little bit more in the run game than what they've shown. Use some wrinkles in this game. And then J.J. McCarthy really getting his first test of a very good Penn State secondary in this game, and a team with really good pass rush as well. 5 edge rushers with double-digit pressures on the year. They have 37 sacks already on the season. They'll bring the pressure with Manny Diaz. Your guys' thoughts on this Michigan offense going up against finally a formidable defense?
I'd like to see the running backs in the passing game a little bit more in this one, and maybe use their aggressiveness against them. I think they're going to have to run the ball a little bit, fellas, in order to win this football game. I'm not saying, I'm saying somewhere between 120 and 150 yards and move, get into some second and sixes eventually here. J.J. McCarthy's been elite on 3rd and long, but now he's playing a good defense. That's probably a good 3rd down defense. I haven't checked, but probably a better 3rd down defense than they've played all year. So they've got to avoid those situations. So going to need to run the ball better. I do think we'll see some more wrinkles there. I do like this Michigan defense against this Penn State offense. I think it's going to be really tough for them to move the ball on the other side of things.
Yeah, with the Michigan offense, I know that JJ has been money in those 3rd and down or 3rd and long situations. I don't recall exactly what the numbers are, but I do think Saturday, for the purposes of Saturday's game, I think that those are situations you want to avoid. Namely because if you get yourself into those 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 10s, if things aren't going anywhere on the first 2 plays, that Penn State pass rush is going to be able to pin its ears back. And we've seen Michigan struggle in pass protection at times, especially coming off the tackles, off the edges there. So I think the biggest key for Michigan on offense in this game is going to be, 3rd down conversions in general. Get the ones that you can get, convert as many of those as possible. But I think staying ahead of schedule on 1st and 2nd down is so huge, because I think the difference between 3rd and 4 and 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8 in this game is going to be massive for what you're going to be able to do offensively. So, you want to see, and also I assume what Penn State's going to do is probably what everyone else has done. Like, they know that if Michigan runs the ball on them, they're probably not going to win the football game. So I think that from a play calling perspective, you're going to want to do some things that you're going to have to make them drop someone back into coverage or lighten up that box a little bit. I think the quick game is going to be huge. It's where someone like Samaj Morgan could be an X factor in a game like this. I think that J.J. McCarthy and some of those both designed quarterback runs and the way he improvises and rolls out, I think that's a major key in this game. But I do think that with the number of playmakers they have, including Donovan Edwards, who I think over the last 3 or 4 weeks has played a lot better despite not having the numbers to back it up. You get him the ball out quick, you get him going with a full head of steam, and that's going to be something that keeps these chains moving for Michigan. And you also have to finish your drives with 7 points. If you drive the ball and Penn State's getting off the field and your field goal team's coming out, that's a win for them. So for me, it's all about those 3rd downs, staying ahead of schedule with the play calls, and also finishing your drives with 7 points.
Yeah, 3rd down is going to be key. I do have the numbers for J.J. McCarthy. 3rd and 7 plus. He's 22 of 29 with 21 first downs picked up, which is absolutely incredible, obviously. And they have had, it seems like the last few games especially, more of those 3rd and longs, Michigan State, Purdue game as well. But the Penn State defense is very good on 3rd down, 28.7% conversion rate. That's 8th in the country and 1st in the Big Ten. Now, talking to Nate Bauer from Blue White Illustrated, he also mentioned that really outside of Ohio State, and we could say the same thing for Michigan, and they haven't even played Ohio State yet, is you're not facing great offenses this year in the Big Ten, really the last couple of years. So it's hard to know exactly how to judge some of these numbers. But they have been very good on third down. It's an athletic defense. They're good in the red zone as well. Michigan going to have to make the most of all of its opportunities. Flipping to the other side of the ball, this Michigan defense against a Penn State offense that played probably its best game of the year last week against Maryland. But I think we've talked on this show the last couple of weeks, especially doing our picks. Maryland kind of falling off here a little bit. And Penn State's offense, the one game that you can really look at and be like, all right, this is going to be semi-similar to this weekend, is that Ohio State game. 1 of 16, you want to talk about third downs, on third down for Penn State. Probably another one of those law averages type of things. Not going to happen again, especially at home. But I think it does speak to Drew Aller, maybe not taking the leap that people thought he was going to. He's still in his first year as Penn State's starter. And this team's only had 24 plays of 20-plus yards from scrimmage. That is tied for 127th in the country with Northwestern and Iowa. So they've kind of been more methodical, run the ball a little bit. Haven't been as good on third down. And, we'll see how this Michigan defense stacks up. But I think I like their chances to kind of keep this low scoring if it has to be.
Yeah, I had 24-17. I think it's a dink and dunk offense, right? And when Aller was pressured against Ohio State, he didn't respond well. Granted, that was on the road. I think he'll be a little bit more comfortable. What Michigan needs to do is stop those outstanding running backs, first of all, and get them into a position where Aller has to throw the ball. So that, to me, is a key. And I think they'll do that. I don't see Penn State running on this team very much. I think this Michigan defensive line is better than the Penn State offensive line. And I think it was kind of fool's gold against Maryland, who always folds this time of year against teams with a pulse for the most part, and is exposed as a fraud. So to me, that's the key. And I think they'll take some shots. We'll see if Josh Wallace plays for Michigan. If not, that could change some things a little bit. If you have to move Mike Sainristil to the corner and have Jaden McBurrows or somebody at nickel, then that could change some things. But I don't see this Penn State team moving up and down the field on Michigan at all.
Clayton, the key to this game, blocking and tackling.
I was going to say it. Great call.
I got you. I think, Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton, that's the key to everything. I mean, if those guys are able to get out and run, if they're breaking tackles, which, they do a pretty good job of doing, it might be a long day and it might be a death by, a million paper cuts type of day. But you look at Drew Aller and the numbers are fine. I mean, he's completed about 63% of his passes, only the one pick on the year, but they just seem so limited in terms of their explosiveness. I mean, you think to some of the guys they've had in the past, like Jahan Dotson and who was the guy, KJ Hamler, the kid from Detroit a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know that they have that guy on this team. And I don't know that they have that quarterback. Drew Aller's tremendous. He's got a good arm. He's played some really good football this year, but I really feel like if Michigan is able to keep them from racking up those big plays, those explosive plays, and the tight ends will be involved in that as well, I feel pretty good about them limiting the damage of this Penn State offense, because I just don't know that they have the playmakers that can offset what Michigan's going to bring to them defensively. So another thing for me, you look at the offensive line, Olu Fashanu is going to be maybe a top 5 pick in this spring's NFL draft. He's an outstanding left tackle. But the middle of that Penn State offensive line does not do a whole lot for me. So guys like Chris Jenkins and Mason Graham and Kenneth Graham, those are, if you're looking for a position group this week to spotlight, this is, you never use the term legacy game, but if those guys who we think they are, then Michigan has an advantage here.
Yeah, and talking to Nate Bauer as well from Blue White Illustrated, he said that they've been susceptible to twists and stunts, and I think that's something Michigan's done a great job of lately, even dropping some defensive linemen into coverage at times and then bringing a Mike Barrett who had 5 pressures on the quarterback last week. But yeah, the tight ends will be very involved. Keandre Lambert-Smith is 3rd in the Big Ten in receptions and yards, receiving as well. And then Drew Aller, if we want to continue the third down theme, he's completing only 48.6% of his passes on third down. When it's 3rd and 7 plus, that's 45.9% of his passes, which ranks 121st in the country among quarterbacks with 15 plus attempts. So in a lot of that came against Ohio State, obviously. But again, that's kind of that measuring stick game that they have played, that Michigan has the advantage of being able to watch them play a similar type of opponent. and they didn't fare all that well on offense, scoring 12 points. One of the scores was late in the game. But yeah, this seems like the receiving core has kind of held them back. So they're going to have to run the ball, I think, on this Michigan defense to have some success. And we haven't seen many teams do that outside of just a couple stretches throughout the year. Minnesota a little bit, in a couple other instances. Let's get to our predictions for this game, and starting with offensive standout of the week. I'm going to go with Roman Wilson. A lot of this is going to have to do with J.J. McCarthy kind of being the key here, but 5 career games on grass for him, 12 catches, 250 yards from scrimmage, 4 total touchdowns. I looked up the stat, so I figured I might as well use it, and I think Roman Wilson's been key to a lot of those big downs too. When Michigan's got to have it, he's been on the receiving end of a lot of those big plays.
I like Colston Loveland in this game. I think he's due for a big one. I think that he is going to be a matchup problem for Penn State, and I think that's JJ's kind of safety net. I think Colston Loveland's going to have a really big day and maybe a touchdown on Saturday.
I was going to go with Colston Loveland. I had everything worked out. So I'll stay in that room and say A.J. Barner.
Okay.
I think that both of those guys are going to be critical in this game, especially when we talk about those third downs, those 3rd and 4s, 3rd and 5s, getting those guys over the middle or the guys leaking out towards the sideline. Those two, the safety valve guys, I think are the ones that could have the most to gain by whatever Penn State's game plan is.
No one took the layup. No one took JJ. And I also want to mention as well, Roman, 2 of those 4 touchdowns on grass in his career came in that 2021 game against Penn State. There had a absolutely monster game with a couple scores. Defensively, I'm going to go with Mike Barrett from the linebacker position. Feel like he's quietly playing as good at linebacker as anybody in the Big Ten right now, including some of Penn State's guys. Just love what they're doing with his speed, getting him on blitzes, using him in those situations where they got to, he comes up the middle and a D-tackle twist around the end. So I think Mike Barrett is going to have a big game and potentially, put some pressure on Drew Aller.
I think Mason Graham's going to have a game against that interior line of Penn State. I think he's going to have to draw some added attention. Some of those guys are. I think this is one of those games where he can really cause a lot of trouble, both in the run game and maybe get into the quarterback a little like he did against Minnesota. So he's my guy.
Chris and I are on the same page today. I don't know if that's inspiring or
well, you're a smart guy. You're a smart guy.
Yeah, and handsome.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm going to stick with the defensive line and go with Chris Jenkins. I know that Michigan fans have kind of, what was all the talk? He's a freak and where's all the numbers? That's not what his job is. This is a dirty work game. This is going to be one of those Big Ten bar fights, and I think that Chris Jenkins and what he brings to the table will be a determining factor in this game.
Yeah, and a lot of the double teams that were on Mozzie Smith last year are going Chris Jenkins' way this season. Final score predictions. I got 34-20. I think Michigan's going to be able to put together kind of the drives that they need. Penn State, I think, will have some success offensively, more so than they did against Ohio State, this game being at home and all that. But I do like Michigan to pull away and win semi-comfortable when it's all said and done.
Let me guess. Did Bauer pick like 24-21 Penn State or what?
24-20 Michigan.
Wow. I'm proud of it. That's a big stat.
And I looked at their staff predictions over at Blue White Illustrated. All but one, I think they had 5 or 6 guys pick, all but one had Michigan winning the game.
Interesting. Well, Michigan's a better football team, and I think Michigan's going to win 24-17. I think it's going to be a game like, I think it was 2006 when they went down there, won 17-10. Alan Branch did some damage, and it was 17-3 late in the game, and Penn State scored with a couple minutes to go. I think Michigan will be up something like 24-10, and then maybe Penn State scores late. Michigan hangs on to win.
I've got Michigan 28, Penn State 16. I think that Penn State will find ways to move the football, but they'll have to kick some field goals, and those will be huge wins for Michigan if that's going to be the case. So 28-16, again, I don't know what that looks like in terms of how that plays out over 4 quarters, but I do feel like I think this Michigan team is at least 10 points better than Penn State, but they have to play well too. It's not a slam dunk. It's not a layup. It's still a coin flip game. But like I said earlier in the show, if this team is who I think they are, then the noise from the last few weeks will not affect them. This matchup will not affect them. The road environment will not affect them. So I expect them to go out and handle their business accordingly.
How about John Borton with 34-8 Michigan on our staff predictions? He's been talking all week about this could be Judgment Day Part 2, referring back to the 1997 game where, Michigan had to go out and prove it, and they did, obviously, and they go on to win the national championship.